All right.
Welcome to the Art of Conscious Living. Today I have a very special guest, a very dear woman who I've seen for a number of years and known of her work. She works with somatic work that is very deep, combining the body, mind, and spirit, unification. She's a woman who has great amounts of love to share with all that come in contact with her. And I'm so very, very pleased to have her here today in the studio. Dr. Celestine Starr.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria.
Welcome, Celestine.
Thank you very
How
much.
are you today?
I'm doing fabulous. Seeing miracles all the time.
Miracles.
Yes.
Well, let's start with the miracles. The somatic work. Tell us about what somatic work is all about.
Well, as you were saying, somatic work is about integrating the body, spirit, and the mind. And so often we're racing along, thinking ahead in the future, and we're not here in the present. And we begin to forget about our bodies, and we just push and push, getting every single thing done until we're exhausted at the night and we get up and do it again. So in somatic, it's really recognizing the body is alive, I am alive, and I connect everything together. So in my day, I take time to breathe and check in with my body, I check in with my mind. And somatic is about that, just recognizing that they all need to be in balance.
So when you say you take time to breathe, we're all breathing naturally, but it's a certain kind of breathing you're doing. It's a mindful breath awareness, and it's a very deep breath. It's a breath like the way that when we look at a baby, the way they breathe, their whole body fills up with breath, and then their whole body flattens out. So it's not a very shallow breath. It's very important let's define what kind of breathing. We're talking about quality of breath. A lot of people breathe like they're gasping for breath, or they breathe from the upper part of their chest.
Yes.
But seldom do most people get deeply, deeply down into their gut, and they breathe very deeply and slowly and quietly and mindfully. So this is what we're really clarifying here. The somatic work is really a deep integration of the body and the mind.
Yes, so you're taking your mind and focusing it towards the breath, which brings you into the present moment. So the moment you follow your breath into the body, as I breathe in, and I'm allowing it to go, as you said, very deeply into the belly. I'm filling the belly, I'm filling it up to my shoulders, and maybe I have to begin by counting. So if I have somebody who's very, very tense and they're unable to focus, I'll just have them count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then holding the breath and breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just in that manner, everything slows down. The life slows down. And the focus on the breath enables the body to shift from the flight, fright symptoms to more of relaxing and being in the present. So again, we take a deep breath and then listening and getting into hearing the breath and eventually going into silence where there's no raspy, where you can't even hear the breath. And there's a silence, and all the body fills up with oxygen. It fills up with all the blood gets to flow, and you relax and go deeper into a state of relaxation where you can then calmly make decisions about your life. And new awarenesses come up forth from just being in a simple meditation, allowing yourself to relax.
The main difference of conventional therapy and somatic therapy is that conventional looks at what is wrong with the person. They're waiting for a breakthrough. The somatic is more of what is right with you. What is right with you, and let's emphasize that, and let's find the journey to that and the experience of that. So it's using the breath to quiet oneself down. In the society today, we have a lot of people that are adrenaline junkies, really. They're into the adrenaline and the stress. The more stress they have, they thrive on the stress, and they don't realize how much damage it's actually doing to their whole physiological system. Their organs are functioning at a great reduction of where it should. The kidneys, the digestive
adrenals.
system, the adrenals,
Yes.
all of it. Mm-hmm. It's stress is a #1 killer. So what
Absolutely.
they think that they're living and thriving on, they're actually killing themselves and doing great harm to themselves.
Yes, they have done many, many studies, and the National Board of Health, they have stated 97% of all of the doctor's visits is due to stress. So yes, moving quickly, and that's what I work with, a lot of people that have very full lives. Not only are they working, more than 8 hours a day, they're driving in traffic, coming home, taking care of families, hardly having any time to rest at all, not sleeping well, staying up, party. And yes, so somatic takes in that everything's okay, that you're okay. We just have to adjust your lifestyle and be a little bit more proactive in looking at the health factors, so we keep the stress factors down. And I have stress numbers of 1 to 10. And for instance, today I just had someone come in who was literally at stress level 10. And what that does is it pushes you into a zone where you can go into acute stress, where things begin to break down. For instance, for myself, being a single parent, I pushed myself to stress level 10, and I lost my hearing. And there I was as an optician, looking in people's eyes, doing glasses. I needed to hear what was wrong. I couldn't hear. So I had pushed my body to where it began to shut down different parts of myself, different organs shutting down. And it took months to regain the ability to hear and to not be so tense and skittish and easy to anger, So this is very important, what we're speaking about today, is the somatic approach. In other words, I was not made to feel that this was wrong, my working very hard or my schedule being full, but just to bring it down to where it was manageable, to where there was a place where my body was included, the healing and the breath of my body was included in what was going on. So now that I have readjusted my schedule and I know what's important to keep us functioning and happy and vibrant, it makes it easy. So that's what I share with people.
So what would you say to people that have been, for decades of their life, they've been working on this modus operandum of great stress and trying to move themselves ahead with that stress, and they're addicted to that. If they don't have it, they absolutely don't know who they are.
Yes.
They're workaholics. They play hard on the weekends. They take everything very serious. They're people that are in charge, ironclad, willpower people.
Yes, well, the easiest way is to just share with them and show them images of people that have gone that route, to be in constant stress, fight, flight, free, and to see the body broken down. So just images of someone with a heart attack, images of someone who is laying in the hospital bed, someone who is in acute hospital being taken care of. That's the first thing, is just really showing them what the end goal is. So even though they may have money, success on their plate to go, and then they could look ahead and say, well, if I'm pushing so hard and I keep doing this, this is where it really is ultimately going to end. The other thing is taking them into a place of paradise, where that goal is there, but they could just take a moment and just stand in the present moment. It's in the future, not in the future, but here with me. So I would say, stand in your present moment. And when you stand in your present moment, you get in the present, and even if you breathe or you just stop the day, you can begin to feel where the body hurts. So it's like some people are cut off from the neck up, and they're not aware of what's going on from the body down. So taking a moment to say, wow, where am I tense? Is my back hurt? You know, is my chest tight because I'm pushing myself? I've got my blood pressure up so high that it's getting ready to go. So I think I would tell people to take a moment and recognize that they can continue to be a workaholic and not really listen to the body, include the body or the emotions. You know, you have people at the office putting pressure on you, having you to do more. So much has happened in the workforce with people taking on double work. And so the pressure of that demand, and are you willing to accept that for yourself in order to stay in the position that you are? Are you willing to sacrifice your life? And where is that going to go? So I would tell people to really take a look at what it is for their health-wise, and just, you know, how long do they think they can keep going like this? And this is where the gold ends, in injury, acute and chronic stress. And
so
suffering.
essentially, slow down every day and be with yourself and quiet yourself down and check in with yourself a lot. Don't be living so much outside of yourself by the stimuli. And one would ask themselves, are you living for quality or are you living for quantity?
Good
And
one.
quality is basically about what's going on in the moment, what is now, what is happening now in this moment. If you're looking at the quantity, you're always, as you said, putting it into the future. And the future is always ahead. It's always going to be ahead. So you're never really, really connected to yourself when you're doing that. And most people are actually living in the quality.
Yes. Yes.
Well, they're living in the quality at fleeting moments, but they're living in quantity. They're seeking quantity. So then they're losing this disconnect with themselves.
And they're also split mind, in which they're seeing themselves in the future. They're also seeing themselves in the past. I have to get there because people will think of me as this, or my mother or father. This is what, you know, being pushed from the past into the future. So most people are in a state of what I call a split mind, in which the traumas of the past are present and enabling, making it so that they're not able to go forward in the future. So also you have the past, so clearing the past and recognizing where are the blocks in your life. So you may be searching for that big rainbow and getting ready to make millions of dollars, but if you have something in the past that's holding you back, that's a very stressful thing. It could be very unconscious. And so we look to work towards clearing the subconscious as well, so that even though they're reaching out into the future, we can clear the past as well. And in clearing the past, it brings them again right in the present moment, where the quality of life is full, where there's so much laughter and joy, and that's where the love flows out of, and the enrichment of life. And from that enrichment of life, the creative forces come forth to enable the person to manifest. So that is a gift.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So the subconscious is really controlling the show, and it's unbeknownst to that person. For instance, if they had a childhood where the father was overbearing and more like acting like a general to them, and the perfectionists, and told them that they're not going to amount to anything and they're no good and they can't do anything right, and so on, they're going to grow up as an adult and they're going to be thinking that. But even though that experience has left, they're not with the father anymore. Now they're married, they have children, so now they're going to be thinking that the wife is thinking that of them, even though she's not.
Yes.
They're
Set
going to
up
be
patterns. The patterns start coming up.
Yes, and they're going to be projecting that onto her, thinking that she is thinking that the way the father used to. But it's not a conscious decision.
Right.
All of this is happening very deep. Unbeknownst to them, they don't know it's really happening.
Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But when you bring them to a stillness and you're able to recognize the patterns of what's going on, you can recognize, for instance, the gentleman today that I was working with, he recognized he was so tense from having so much pressure on him from the past that he couldn't go forward into the future. And again, the wife picking up, being very sensitive, being connected to this gentleman or to your husband, you know, to the husband, she picks it up and then she becomes tense. So she's going to speak to him in a way where she's picking up the tense. It's like a, you know, sending the energy back to him the way he gives it out. So if you're in a state of being tense and you're speaking to someone, that tenseness comes out in your voice. So when somebody speaks back to you in defensiveness, or someone that's going to shut you down because you're sending out negative energy, then that builds tensions and keeps the stress going.
Yes. It's also very important to acknowledge the words that we communicate to each other.
Yes.
Are they loving words? Are they words of nonviolent? Are they words of love? Or are they words of getting lost in the emotions? Meaning, if they're angry, they're thinking that the anger is what is actually happening, but it's really not. Underneath that anger, there's a lot that's hidden there of really what they're trying to say, but they're not saying. So it's important to check in with themselves, as you said, and you'll get to that place. And that place will be that language of love. And that language of love is a connection to each other, a language of empathy to each other, a language that you're really helping the person to be able to connect deeper with inside themselves. And that's our responsibility to ourselves and to each other. It's not about finding fault in each other, which a lot of people do. We seem to be, as the collective, the majority of the people, we seem to be lost in our emotions, then we impute those emotions onto each other. And that is there's no win-win there when that is happening. It's absolutely everybody is going to be losing in that.
Yes, the anger factor is rampant in our world on all levels, through the worldly wars that are going on, through the media, all these areas of people's lives, the tension, someone gets hurt, you know, the bombing while people were running, and these things set off triggers. It triggers within us these primal places that if we do not have the tools to bring ourselves into present moment, to breathe, to stay in the heart with it, and to understand there's deeper workings in the world going on, then we have a tendency to let it go and to be very accusing and ready to harm others. So yeah, it's very important to recognize.
Celestine, tell me an ideal way to start one's day and throughout the day.
Great, thank you. One of the ways that you can begin is when you open your eyes and you're coming out of dream state. It's a beautiful time of the morning. And usually most people, their minds kick in and you begin to think about what you have to do. So what I share with people to do is, instead of having the brain to kick in, you say thank you and breathe and come back into the heart. And what you're searching for, what you're looking for, is just to feel pleasure in that moment of awakening. The sun is out or the sun is not out, either way. But just allow yourself to keep breathing or keep working with coming out of the mind. And as the words arise, you better get going, it's 9 o'clock. You say, thank you. You become the awareness, not the words that are rising. And eventually, through your breath and just, it's, you know, you haven't got up yet, the alarm's going to go off, and you're just, thank you, and breathing, and just taking a moment to relish your awakening. And then when you get up, as you do, and you could say, you know, I'm going to take care of this at, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm going to start my day in thinking. Just really practice. And after a while, your body will be so used to awakening without having to go into contemplative motion that you'll be given space to get up and look at the trees or look at the dawn, have a great breakfast. So also having, taking care of the body, nourishing, and making sure that you're planning. You say, well, I'm going to have a good day and nourish my body. The 3 cups of coffee, causing the blood vessels to constrict, giving your adrenals a burst. The endorphins are used up and the adrenals get going. It's going to last you just a few hours, and then what are you going to do? So if you're the type of person that does the coffee and you keep going, what's the antidote on the other side? So there's no right or wrong, but how are you going to plan? So you just say, okay, so I'm going to have a water break. I'm going to drink some water. Maybe I'm going to have some fruit and nourish my body a little bit. So you're always checking in through the day, at least 2 or 3 times a day when you're at the office, taking a moment to just stand up and say, I'm walking away from this. I'm not, it's, when you go to lunch, sometimes you're thinking, I've got to get back and get to work. But I would say, if you go to lunch and take a short walk, stand for a moment and look at nature. Even if you have a picture, to look at nature. Some people program their computers to beep and then they just take a breath. I tell people yoga is amazing. If you can get into doing some stretches, have a yoga instructor take you personally aside and teach you a few stretches. As a massage therapist, I do massage therapy, and training them how to do stretches during the day. And if you're in a grocery store line, taking a moment of, and the word is, there's a breath that's, but there's just letting it out, letting the heart open. So, and then planning to get as much sleep as you can, tucking in. And I tell people to mark the calendar, at least three days a month, 3 days out of the month where it's a unicorn day, where you do absolutely nothing. And so, so you do absolutely nothing. You let the day be empty and let your body and your spirit guide you. It's very exciting. You say, I don't know what I'm going to do this day, but I'm going to wake up when my body wants to wake up. I'm going to go where I need to go. There's no agenda, and that's a magical day. So that's something I tell people to do.
So it's about being able to witness what you're doing instead of being in the reactive mind and living outside of yourself. And it's very important to connect to yourself, your own source energy, your own power. A lot of people are not really knowing what that's all about. They live completely outside and they think that their existence is dependent, related on what is happening outside of them, the stimuli outside of them. They have no idea who is basically here within them. They do not know how to be their own best friend.
Yes, there's not too much in the media. There's not too much direction as they're, being raised to really take the time. It's slowly awakening. I think yoga's an amazing thing, and it's very mainstream now for people to go in and start getting into their bodies and stretching and learning who they are. But yes, you're absolutely correct. People are not aware of their inner source and the power that's there.
And there seems to be a master plan to all of that, that the authoritarians want you to be living in that way, that you are in the workforce and that you don't ask questions and you don't look left or right. You certainly don't know who you are. And as long as you don't know who you are, then the authoritarians can control you. And in that control factor, and I say that it's essentially very, very important. This is the most crucial aspect, that we all wake up. Because the planet is at a tipping point in the next 10 years where it won't be able to be habitable here, to live here anymore in this planet. So there's a lot going on here. Now I say that, and that sounds like a very controversial statement, but it's actually the reality of what is happening here. And it's not going to change by, on its own. It's dependent related on the masses of people. So the crucial, most important factor here is that individuals wake up.
Yes.
And your work is so, so important.
Thank you.
Because you're facilitating people to connect to themselves, probably for the first time in their entire life.
It's amazing. And part of my work is to evolve consciousness. So as they can awaken to all the levels that take them into the higher realms of consciousness, of manifesting the world. And when you get them so that people are free to manifest the world, and they're in a state of love and reverence, then they have so much power. And I look towards the youth now because they are awakened. I sat in a circle with beautiful young people, and the first thing that the 7-year-old said was, well, we're inheriting your world of total destruction. We're aware of that, but guess what? We're here to fix that. So that was very powerful. And each of the youth had an awareness. They're awakened. These children are awakened. And so it may not even be in our generation, but the generations that are coming up. And so as many as we can get awake is very important. And awake, we're saying conscious of their surroundings, that they affect the world for the next 7 generations, that they can do many things with their life creatively. It's not all about the shopping mall and the car and the house, And I ask people, so when your grandson opens the box and there's grandfather in there, what do you want them to know about you? And this reverberates into their soul. And even people of great wealth, I said, what do you want the world to say when they open the time box with all of your 200 years from now? What is the opportunity that you have here to offer to the world? And it's really encouraging. There is some encouragement that people, when they're brought into a place of stillness in the present time, many have open hearts and they're really aware and they really want to help. And it's like, which direction do I go in? So I also help people to find that direction, to help them step onto that path.
Why do you think we are here, Celestine? Why are the humans here? What is your life? What are you doing? What's the best thing that we can do in this world here to acknowledge our lives?
To acknowledge who we are.
Yes. As
unique. Each person is so unique. I believe that we are made in the image of creation. So as creation, the consciousness, the conscious awareness, if you call it God, goddess, whatever, is living, and it expresses itself through our existence. So through our existence, each one of us, and that's why it's so important that each nation, each person be honored, because they're coming in as an expression and a purpose. So the magic and the benevolence of each person as they discover what their gifts are, if they're given a safe space, most people are amazing to see the gifts that they have here. So I believe that we are here to experience the magnificence of this beautiful world and to live in paradise. I know we were given the template to the Garden of Eden, and many of us carry it. And so I just hold that vision high, that as we move into galactichood, and we recognize we are all one, we move into the unity, the unified consciousness that we are all one. We can then begin to rebuild Earth in a sustainable way, and the joy of being here will be overwhelming, and the different adventures that we can have. So.
And the premises of being one would be to find our similarities, not our differences.
Yes.
In religion.
Everything, yes.
For so long in religion it's been defined as why and what is wrong and what is right. But it's not about that. It's what is similar, what is What are we all sharing, as you so beautifully said?
Yes,
And we celebrate that.
We celebrate that, yes. And I think the unifying field, which is moving into humanity's consciousness now very strongly, is going to move religion into a place that is in harmony and balance. And and I just want to say, just take the mask off of who is Islamic or Christian. Take the mask off of what type of person they are, as opposed to what religion they are. Then we see what kind of leaders that we have in the world. Are these leaders taking us towards unity? And the world is moving away from government and into guardianship. So in guardianship, it's those who are worthy to be guardians of the earth that need to step up. So I call all the guardians forth, the ones who are really here to do the work and to help to organize humanity, to feed the children. There should be no one homeless. Everyone should have a place of being. And the guardians are set in their mind and their capability and their balance to actually formulate these things and manifest them. So that's one of the things that I envision for the world.
Quite simply said, the more people that wake up, the more shift that will happen with the guardians and the people that are in control, meaning the government. The more people that are awake, it demands that the governments are more awakened. The more people that are sleeping and not aware of their own energy and their own power and their own divinity, the more that everything can become more amiss and askew as it has been.
Yes, so there's a place that needs to come forth that allows for people to grow and to awaken, you see. So if the government could just, well, I say the government, it's beyond the government because you have the governing bodies, but you also have the private sector that puts pressure on the governments to do as they need.
If they're awake.
So we need those who are at the top of the scale of humanity's movement to recognize we're all equal. And we're here to move into the unified field of guardianship. And I love what you're saying, to wake up, but to give a space for people to awaken. If they're so busy driving to work and they had, the money factor is held down, and we know that they can release the funds, and we know that people can come out of debt, and we know that any time that the movement of the game, of the money game, of people holding people down is just released a little bit and let people have a moment to breathe and enjoy life, that will be a huge shift in the consciousness and the crimes and the anger and the frustration. So we know this. It's just a matter of time. It's coming.
Well, it's important to clarify also that we are more than just the money game. We are more than just being a husband or a wife or a lover, a friend. What we are, what is that more? And that more is that we are essentially a very powerful force of peace, of divinity. And in that divinity, we're expressing this incredible power that we have inside of ourselves. And this sparks energy within us, and it rejuvenates itself. And it's a continuum of incredible, abundant amount of innate wisdom. And in saying that, people are not connected to that. Most people are not connected to that. They're not even aware of it. In that pursuit of the money, in that pursuit of love, in that pursuit of all of the outside of these factor things that they want for themselves, they lose the most precious, fundamental aspect of connecting to themselves. So foremost, they have to connect to themselves first and love themselves completely And when they love themselves completely, they're able to share that love with so much. There's so many people that have perished so quickly because of that, of what I've just said, that lack of love that they did not have for themselves.
Yes.
They were looking outside of themselves. One that comes to mind is the beautiful woman Whitney Houston, seeking it outside of herself. Now, I'm only putting pieces. I did not get to talk to her. I don't know her. We all heard bits and pieces throughout the press of what happened to her and how it happened, how she married up with Bobby Brown, bad boy. A lot of women are attracted to bad boys. So that marriage ended, and she was lost. She was completely lost. Why was she lost? It's very important to clarify that the lostness was that she was seeking Christ. She was always talking about the Christ, singing about Christ, but was she really connected to herself? And if I got a chance to meet her, that's what I would talk to her about, or would have talked to her, spoke to her about.
And
come
for
home.
a moment,
Come home to yourself.
Yeah, I think for a moment she had a comeback. And I believe that
she had a comeback.
Yeah, she did. She found herself, and she came back in to be with the public. And a lot of her, what is it called, live TV, went into her life and showed her. I watched a couple of times to see her life, and just to see what kind of personality that she was just in her regular day. And there was no one around her who had the consciousness to really be in love and to bring her through the pain that was under the surface in her life. As I spoke, when somebody's frustrated or angry, it comes through your voice, and that's what was happening. So if you don't have the tools to process your stuff, then it continues and continues. So even when she left Bobby, and I think she stepped out onto the main circle with Oprah, and I really had good hopes for her that she said, I'm going to give it a go, and I'm like, go. But she had destroyed her voice through the smoking and the different things. You could hear the raspiness of her singing in the last movie that she made. And I think it was very hard for her to live with that she had, the voice. It wasn't as strong, and maybe she had to live with that, and it was very difficult. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. If I think more healers are needed. They're speaking about the medical industry is now looking at the number of people that are going to be needing medical attention and aid, and they're actually opening the field for alternative medicine, which is a miracle because there's not enough MD practitioners to help the number of people in the next 10 years, as you say. So alternative medicines have now come online. So if there was enough practitioners that were available to, say, Whitney, just in her daily life, it may have make all the difference for her, But how do you get the tools? And just thankful for your Art of Living program, because people can tune in and they can get direction for where they need to go. And so we want to thank you for just your work here.
Celestine, the key word there is Art of Living. It's conscious living.
Yes.
And it's very important.
The art of conscious living.
Yeah. The consciousness of living is the most important factor there. Mm-hmm. It's, are you living, or are you living with consciousness?
Yes.
Are you just being, or are you not being with awareness? These are the questions that one could ask themselves. And in asking these questions, you connect to your higher self. Mm. And your higher self is where it all is. Your best friend is there. Mm. Everything is effortless there. Mm. Everything is absolutely divine and beautiful there.
Mm-hmm. But how do you explain divine and beautiful? I've had people to say, oh, that's just a lot of talk, you know. How do you bring it down to reality, you see?
Well, let's
And
bring it
so-
down. Let's bring it down for others then.
Yeah. And
What is
so,
that?
well, you know, it's the word glory. And if somebody said, what is the word glory to you? You'd have to think about that. The word glory. Glorious. What is glorious? And that mind, the conscious mind, has to kick in to figure out what that is. If I say to you, you're beautiful, a lot of people have problems with that. Oh, I don't want to say I'm beautiful, but really I am. But if I say, beauty is the perfection of creation, you are beautiful, the conscious mind has to kick in. So it's really languaging and helping others to understand how to get to that glorious moment. I've been there. I've seen the glory. It exists in every moment. Can you step into your glory, the glorious life that you have? Whether you have been beaten down, abused, suffering, I have seen the trail of suffering, but still within it all is a shimmer of glorious understanding that every human being, every child understands the glorious energy of this moment. So that's what I would say. I would take them there.
The glory could be not something that we are familiar with, as you say, and it could be something that we can only find that in the quietness of ourselves and in those moments that we talked about earlier, that we check in with ourselves all the time, because the glory is not outside of ourselves. It's not looking for it outside. It's not the clothing we wear or the car we drive or how millions of dollars that our house is, or the fame. It's none of that. It's really, the glory is inside of ourselves again. It's always getting back. It starts with us, it begins with us, and it's full circle. We spread that out to each and everybody we come in contact with. And there's incredible celebration going on with that.
And when you come with each other and you're both in a state of glory, you can create amazing things. Then the movement of creation becomes substantial to make that beautiful home. And you see the living homes that have permaculture and everything's integrated within the whole homes. That is someone who's probably reached the glory. They've awakened, and so the vision is coming through because from within themselves they're feeling a oneness. And so as they go outward to create, it's very inclusive and it's very exciting because what comes out of it is these amazing artistic endeavors that we see in the world. I love 1 Billion Rising, the women, 1 Billion Rising, and women who have suffered and gone through sex trafficking and such as this, but the woman had a oneness within herself. And as she stepped forward and she said no more, and her creative act opened up a world in which 1 billion women can rise up to speak and be present in their oneness. They can feel their oneness of who they are and join in others in oneness. So that's pretty exciting.
Let's go back to what source energy is all about. What is our source energy, and how do we connect to that? How do we acknowledge that? Where are we really getting our energy from? As we mentioned earlier, you can get it from cups of coffee.
Yes.
And you jack yourself up, and then you drop down very quickly, crash after that, a number of hours. Is that your source energy? Absolutely not. So what is your source energy? What would be an example of what our source energy, we call it God, Goddess, we call it many names. We call it Buddha, Jesus, we call it
breath.
Breath. It has many names.
Yes.
But forgoing the names, just what is that source energy?
You know, the first thing I want to say is that it is the nameless, you know. But the source energy is that which sustains all things, out of which everything comes forth from. That's what I would say the source energy is. And one can get in touch with it in many ways. I love to feel through my body, through beginning with the breath is the easiest, and breathing in, and then feeling the energy, the heat begin to rise in my body, the heat. And also I've had experiences of feeling the kundalini or the electrical energy, electromagnetic field of my body. So often I'll tell people to breathe, and then they feel the energy rising, and then I say, okay, let's take it out beyond the body. And so when someone can feel out beyond the body into their field, they begin to feel this power that's happening. And the feeling of powerlessness disappears. The feeling of fear disappears. And they feel a sense of wholeness within themselves. One can also connect to the heavens and bring heavenly energy down through the crown, down to the top of the head, down into the body. So when you're bringing heavenly energies into the body, you have to consciously connect to that. So what are you doing? You're consciously, there is an innate knowledge and knowing that this exists, so you're pulling in energy. And if you believe in the creation and the creator, which most people do, but we have those who are atheists, they say they're atheists, but when you look deeper, most people have an understanding they are created. So what is creating me? You know, and if you open the heart and connect in prayer, prayer can be a beautiful way of connecting to the creator, but most people only pray when they're really deeply distressed, or there's someone very ill, or they, you know, that is a mannerism of prayer. But, you know, you can reach the creation in just pure joy.
Of a celebration.
Of a celebration.
Instead of asking for something or needing something,
yes,
you're merely celebrating.
Celebrating, yes. So,
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mentioned that in the beginning, people who have been living with high stress for decades, and that's all they know, if they start to do that and slow things down, I imagine that it's going to be very unfamiliar to them, and they're not going to be feeling very comfortable with it, even though it kind of feels good to them. They sense something, but they're going to need to calibrate themselves and say, well, what is this? I don't know. I'm not used to this. I'm used to that other way, and I don't want that to die off. So there's going to be a whole back and forth of that for quite a while going on. And they'll sort of slip into it eventually, the more that they do it. So it's not going to happen instantly. That's important too. And that's why people like yourself who can guide them, and they can come to you, and you can have sessions with them and help them to get to that place. And again, the conventional, they're not going to be talking about all their problems in the conventional therapy. With your work, the somatic work, they're going to be deeply quieting down. Experiencing is the key word.
Well, let me just say, you know, for instance, if somebody was a first responder, they live and I appreciate what you're saying. I just want to interject how it can be instant, because we always have choices, right? So let's say you're a first responder, fireman or police officer, or someone who's always in these high tension places. And if you were to incorporate mindful awareness, the breathing and such, into your daily work, I've been told that the experience is that their sleep is better, and so they have, you know, as you say, over time and practice, it incorporates in and it enables them to handle what is going on. So if a fire breaks out and they have to go into a burning building, they take a moment and breathe and collect themselves before they go in. So it becomes a tool chest where they have different tools in their pocket and they can use it in different ways to get where they're going. And we show them in a fun way, so it's not like stopping them from where they're going, but it enables them to be stronger, more vibrant, and have a little bit more fun in doing what they're doing. So I want to just interject that. So
Thank you. Well, we just have a few moments left, Celestine. It's been absolutely an incredible pleasure speaking with you. What would you like to share in these final thoughts?
I'd like to share that the world is always in balance. And even though you may see the traumas of the world, take a moment and think of the goodness that is there. Because the world is always in balance. And that we move now to a place of oneness. So that's the newest thing that's happening, is to recognize that human consciousness is evolving and that you are a part of it. And it's a ride that we're going to take, and we are the chosen ones. I call it the children of the lion. And we are moving into a state of oneness where we become the guardians of the world. So I'm just ready to go on an adventure with you. And it's all here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celestine.
Yes.
And from the art of conscious living, do take care of yourself and take care of others. Thank you.